Welcome back to episode 2 of Cougar Culture. I am your host, Dorian Alert, editor and commentator extraordinaire. I'm so excited to be here for this second episode, but once again, I'm not alone. I am joined by one of my good friends, Jish Sokolski. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I like that word, Dorian. I like the word extraordinaire. I think that really suits you for sure. But let's get right into this weekly recap. We had we only have 2 sports going on right now, so it's a little dry, but of course the content of what we've seen in those sports has been anything but dry. So why don't you kick us off with some swimming news, Dorian?
Starting with our first segment after the whistle, and we're talking women's swimming. Kean University women's swimming team beat William Patterson 145-59. Yeah, but it was a great opportunity to sit there and watch the swim team. We saw a record finally get broken, as we've been seeing all season the potential to. They always get just close to beating it, but Tegan Powell came away with the 100-yard breaststroke record, posting a time of 1 minute 11.2 seconds.
Wow, that is fast.
Seconds.
I feel like we should have like a sound effect or something, like an air horn whenever someone breaks a school record, because Coach Swenson was telling us every week at the meets, this record's going to fall. This record should fall. I'm hoping this record will fall. And finally, we have our first school record of the season. So very happy to see that for Coach Swenson and the swimming team.
Yeah, and the team loved it afterwards. They all got into a huddle and they were like, she broke the record. And it was
love
awesome
to see that.
Of course.
The camaraderie. Gotta love it. Moving on into esports news, our Madden team is now advanced to the finals, our only esports team that did make it beyond the first round, unfortunately, of their respective playoffs. But it's going to be an exciting game. In Kane's inaugural esports season, their Madden team is already making it all the way. So that should spell wonders for the future of this program.
Absolutely. And now we're moving on to women's basketball. Women's basketball went 1-1 in this past week. They did play Rutgers Newark in that game that we spoke about. In episode 1, they beat Rutgers Newark 72-56. We saw an incredible game, especially in the third quarter, when Shannon McCoy and Samaya Horton went back and forth scoring. Samaya Horton, of course, ended with 36 points, but Shannon McCoy and her team came out with the win. Shannon, of course, had another double-double, putting up 27 points and 16 rebounds. And she backed it up against Rowan University. Unfortunately, the team did lose 53-45, but McCoy, again, had 16 and 14. She was joined by her teammate, Sarah Oliveira, who had 11 points and 4 rebounds. And, Macy Seaman, of course, coming off the bench as well. She provided 22 minutes, and in those 22 minutes, she had 4 points and 9 rebounds. Coach has been raving about what Seaman's brought to the table all season, and she's proving exactly why she's getting the minutes she is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so fun watching this team grow. We watched their first few games. There were some pretty bad losses in there, to be honest, but they've really turn the ship around. Of course, they are coming off a loss, but they definitely look like a different team now than they did at the beginning of the season. Now going on to men's basketball, speaking of teams that don't necessarily look like they did at the beginning of the season, the men's basketball team started off on a hot streak, going 6-0 to start the season, but they've dropped their last 2 games to NJAC opponents, now sitting at 5th place in the NJAC on the outside looking in at this playoff picture, or 6th place, excuse me. They are 1 spot outside of the playoffs. They did lose to 2 playoffs teams in Rutgers Newark. They got they got humbled by Rutgers Newark, I would say, an 82-64 loss. Leading scorer in that night was Patrick Strazala. dropping 17. But you could tell by the end of that second half, we had our defensive rotations in, trying to really get back into this game with the full court press. It didn't necessarily work, but it did bring the game closer than it actually ended up being. And then we, of course, did lose again in Glassboro against Rowan on Saturday by a score of 99-91. Interestingly enough, Latrell West and Patrick Shrizala did not play in that game, so that left JD Daniels to go off for 24 points. Kean went into halftime with a 50-39 lead, and unfortunately could not hold on to that. Rowan did come all the way back, but they do have a chance to salvage, to right the tide, I would say, against NJCU, the 4-5 NJCU, ranked third to last in the NJAC. And that game will be held in Jersey City tonight. So hopefully the boys can bounce back after 2 NJAC defeats.
I definitely believe they will. You know, Coach Sherko and this squad have done it all this season, and I'm sure they'll definitely bounce back. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, and he was telling us, championships aren't won in November. So the fact that they were 6-0 and then humbled shows that they have adversity thrown in their face. And now this is what championship teams are built on, the way that they can respond from adversity. So let's see how well they can respond to this adversity that they're facing now here in December.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, Jish, both basketball teams will be traveling to NJCU tonight. They'll take on both of those teams. We'll, of course, bring everyone up to speed in our final segment later on. But we did walk away with an award this week as well. Shannon McCoy, she won NJAC Player of the Week.
Woo!
Again, we need like a horn or something.
Another, yeah. We're still in the baby phases of this podcast. We'll get them. Rest assured.
But she did win NJAC Player of the Week, averaging 21.5 points and 15 rebounds. Absolutely incredible stuff by McCoy. She's really been on a scoring tear lately. And
yeah, that's an understatement. A rebounding tear too. Tell them about the rebounds.
She had 30 rebounds in 2 games. She had 16 and 14 respectively. And honestly, I've just been having a blast watching the team play throughout this season.
Yeah. I mean, we got to remind you too that Shannon McCoy is like a 2 guard. She plays the 3. She plays a wing position. The fact that she's grabbing these rebounds is mind-boggling at a rate higher than basically anybody in the entire NJAC. It's just dominance on all fronts.
Yep. And, it's showing up in the team's record. The team currently is tied for second place in the NJAC. They sit at that 4 spot, technically, by record-wise, but they're 2-1 in the NJAC right now. They sit behind William Patterson, Stockton, and TCNJ, all very good teams. And they're also tied with Rowan for that other spot. So, we'll see what happens throughout the rest of the season, but I'm excited.
Me too.
We've got a packed show for everyone today. Jish and I had great sit-downs with both the Kean football team and Victoria Vitale, a member of the women's soccer team at Kean.
Yeah, absolutely. Both those conversations really, I wasn't actually involved with the Victoria Vitale one, but definitely the conversation with the football team really impacted me. I loved calling those games for the guys all season, and it was nice to pick their brains.
Definitely. And now it's time for Cougar Quick Hits with the Kean football team. So we are now joined by Kean's football team, specifically head coach Dan Garrett. How are you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well, Dorian and Jish. Thanks for having us today. We're excited to be a part of your program. Thank you.
No problem, of course. And you did not come alone. You came with several of your football players. We're joined by Dante Jamison, Anthony Bassani, Dante Capozzoli, Kyeon Taylor, Dante Jamison, and so many others. How are all of you doing?
We're good. Feeling great. Feeling good.
So leading into our first question, this is for Anthony. the 2020 season was really short. There was only one game played as a whole. So what were your thoughts following that season and, coming into this brand new one in the fall?
Yeah. So obviously our thoughts were excited because we had a short season for 2020 and, going through everything with COVID, it was tough for any football program to go through. And then leading up to the 2020 season, obviously we're excited because we only played one game and we had a lot to prove, and the rest of the games got canceled. So we were just super excited for this season to show everybody, who doubted us, what we could do.
Yeah, for sure. And you definitely did show up 4 teams specifically exactly who you guys were this season. It was awesome to watch you guys. This next question is for Captain Capozzoli. You were named a preseason All-American. Was there any added pressure going into the season because of that?
No, there wasn't any added pressure. It was always nice to see. I mean, it was a great honor, but I give a lot of that to my teammates. They helped me do everything. I mean, I wouldn't be anywhere without them. So it was a great honor, but it was really appreciated to them.
Following your 0-3 start to the season, I know you guys did an interview with the Tower, specifically Coach and Dante, and you mentioned some of the things that you can improve on, and obviously you did, going on a 3-game winning streak right after. But, what was the message to the team to basically right the ship, Coach?
Well, the messaging is so important, especially when you start 0-3. And the way we started 0-3, it wasn't close losses. We had a game in there that we thought we let one slip away against Utica, but the end result, we had 2 bad losses. And, really it was about letting them know, it's okay to feel the feelings that we felt. We all felt very disappointed. We all felt frustrated. There was other terms that we can't say in your podcast. But ultimately, we really talked about a lot of the messaging that we use in our program as a whole and the culture that we talk about, that the ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. And we're only as strong as the adversity we overcome is one of our core covenants, our core value. And we talk about that constantly. We talk about it off season, in season, preseason, and obviously now we're in it. The ability for this group of young men to be able to be persistent enough not to listen to the outside voices was amazing. And it's a credit to them as a whole. And we're very young, but the leadership in this program behind the guys you're looking at, Dante, Capozzoli, KT, Aaron, Neal, Bassani, those guys who are older, the leadership was phenomenal because, they know how I feel about tough times don't last. Tough people do. And it certainly wasn't where we wanted to be, but that was the messaging. And there was nothing like adversity to refine and look at where we need to get better and reveal who we are as a team. And the big message ultimately was the fact that 0-3, as much as it was not where we wanted to be, had no bearing on what the season meant because we didn't start an NJAC season yet. So that was the real main sounding board, that the NJAC season started now. And we choose to make it what we wanted to make it. So we wanted to learn from those 3 losses. And ultimately now, looking back, we had the 22nd hardest schedule in Division III football because of those 3 games. And then there's 250 schools. So those 3 games prepared us for the conference, and certainly wasn't where we wanted to be, but those guys were resilient and persevered to the point where they learned from that. They used it as a springboard to learn from it against maybe, good teams, but not the teams that we played week 1 or certainly week 3 that ended up only losing, 1 game apiece in the entire season. So, we wanted to make sure that it was about ownership, looking themselves in the mirror as an individual, seeing what they can improve upon, and making sure that they need to make the individual effort to become better first in their own world to have an impact in our world as a program. And it was really about just getting better. And those 3 games prepared us for that. And we did. And the credit to them, they fought every day to make sure they got the ship right. And they righted the ship. I'm just fortunate enough that they believed and trusted in their leader as their head coach to listen and buy in and do it. So that's really what it was. They stayed together. They stayed the course, and they worked their what's off to prove everybody that it wasn't just going to be, the same old season. And they did. They righted the ship.
Excellent answer, Coach. We really appreciate that. This next question is going to be for Dante Jamison. You were asked to do it all this season, asked to run the ball, to catch passes, to return kicks. You ended up being the NJAC Special Teams Player of the Year. And I don't know if you were looking at your stats, but you did finish 4th in the NJAC in receiving yards. How did you juggle all these responsibilities that were thrown at you?
Just trusting the coach who's going to put you in the best position, and having faith in the team. The Special Teams Player of the Year, I couldn't have got that if it wasn't for the team blocking on the punt returns. Just trusting Coach G and trusting Coach Galante put me in the best position to help the team win.
And, speaking of stats and, just leading the NJAC for Kyeon, Kane had an NJAC high 11 interceptions on the season, and you led the team with 8 of them. What are your secrets to reading quarterbacks so well?
I say that it's not really a secret. I've worked hard since freshman year, practicing. Coaches, teammates give me a lot of confidence to do what I got to do. So I'm just trusting my read, trusting everything around me, trusting my teammates doing their job. I'm not trying to do too much. I'm just doing what I'm taught, basically. So there's really no secret. It's just hard work coming and confidence, really.
Before Jish goes, he likes to make a lot of comparisons when we're watching basketball to Darius Slay. With the amount of interceptions you had this season, I would say maybe a Trayvon Diggs would be.
I appreciate it. Nah, those guys crazy. They're Slay. I'm an Eagles boy, so yeah, I like that.
Yes, sir. No, I'm an Eagles fan. Dorian's a Cowboys fan, so we're always jawing off. Like when the mic goes off, it's always back to that. But speaking of the secondary, you guys were a phenomenal unit as a whole. Anthony, you were a senior this year. You had a lot of success throughout your tenure at King, Rookie of the Year. And there are some younger safeties on the squad. Tanner Ash, have you taken on sort of a mentorship role? And who are some of the younger safeties we should look out for that might have some success in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely taken Tanner under my wing. He's considered, I think, a freshman because of the COVID year. So he still has, I think, 3 more years to play. So Tanner definitely going to be a guy to step up and take over that role. We also have younger safety like Lamar Winfrey and Cameron Mills. So we got younger guys, younger talented guys that could definitely learn a thing or two and then take that to up their game, their level of play.
Is this a good time to let you know that he's coming back for his grad year, though? That he's not a senior? I think it's a good time.
Great time to mention that.
Yeah, that's it.
For Coach, this was your 3rd NJAC Coach of the Year honor, adding on to the list of awards that we've already gone through for the season. What does that selection mean to you and the work that you put in this season?
Yeah, this one's a little more special than the previous 2 because when you're younger, it's maybe more a little ego driven, but this one is special because we had 18 months of, I don't even know how to define it. I mean, we went through last fall where we're on a staggered schedule where we're dealing with half our team and we're working out twice a week with me, Coach Galante and Coach Kreider, and the other 2 days were Coach Graff. And it's not football season, but it's the fall, so, and then spring comes and, the one thing about the spring, which is really great, and it had a lot to do with our success is, I talked to Neal about it today. We only had 1 game, but we were on each other for 11 weeks, man. We got to practice football for 11 weeks. And I was so grateful for that opportunity to be around this group of guys. And it was a skeleton squad. We only had about 56 guys out there. But it was still 11 weeks together where we got to be together at 5:30 in the morning and, 16-degree weather, but it was an opportunity to get better at football. So this one was more special than the other 2 because, you start to appreciate what it really means. And I'm just surrounded by great kids, man. I'm surrounded by great young men. The coaches I had, we had a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't even know about. We lost 5 coaches in late July, early August for all various reasons. So, someone got a principal job, someone didn't want to get vaccinated, and on and on and on. So we lost 5 of our coaches, 2-3 weeks before camp. And it's a skeleton squad in the coaching staff this fall. So the guys that I was surrounded by, players and coaches, this was a phenomenal team award where coming off of 18 months of whatever the heck we went through, it just means more than ever because 0-3 could have went a lot of different ways. And to finish 2nd in the conference where you're selected 7th, this team, they fought daily to make themselves better, not just for themselves, but for the team. and they care about each other, man. There's something special when you have a group of guys who truly care for one another. So this award is definitely more of a team thing and a program award than ever in the past, just because the group of men I'm surrounded by on a daily basis, I'm grateful for.
I remember the one day we were, going through our rosters before the game, and we were like, wait a minute, they added something in here, and the name was Smoke. And so for Dante, how did you get that nickname?
I got the nickname for being fast and being hard to catch.
My next question is for Neal. We have 12 Cougars who rank, 5 Cougars who ranked inside the top 12 for tackles this year. And you were number 12 as a corner, only at 6 foot 180. What's your mentality as a corner to go up and make these plays? We've seen you make plays on receivers, running backs in the backfield. You were all over the field this year.
Going into tackles, I just think about what the coaches tell us, track in their hip, knowing who's around me. If I got to vice it, if I got help outside, tack the inside hip. So, and using the sideline as my friend. So, and I know since Pop Warner, they've been telling me people can't run without their legs. So I take them up.
What was it like having fans back in the stands for every game this season?
Yeah, similar to what I said to the Tower when they interviewed me, I think that for me, the bigger picture was a sense of returning back to normal. There were so many guidelines and restrictions and things we had to adhere to throughout the shutdown and the closure. We had to do so many things, whether it was testing weekly or temperature scans or whatever we had to do, right? The daily campus check-in. So to be able to come back and even be together as a team and have a locker room and meet in the meeting rooms, and we had to wear a mask, but we were back together. So the whole element of being able to have fans back in the stands, like these guys said, it's to be able to have not only the students and the student body and the administrators come support us, but our families. I mean, my mom, dad, my wife, my kids, these guys' parents, their loved ones, their girlfriends, to be able to have them all back there, it does provide extra motivation because they're there to support you. So when things aren't going well, you have people, not just your brothers on the football field, but you got your the ones who love you the most in the stands there to support you, regardless of the outcome. To be there, to be in person, is definitely different, than not being allowed and not, having to be behind a computer screen. So I think it was awesome to be able to have that support back, and for our community here on campus, and more for our players. It was just great having the stands filled. It was awesome.
Now it's time to take it beyond the competition with Victoria Vitale.
We're now joined by Victoria Vitale, a member of the Kean women's soccer team. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So not only are you a member of the women's soccer team, but you are also an author. Would you like to tell the audience a little bit about what inspired you to ultimately write and publish a book?
Sure. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I took a class called Writing Fiction and Poetry. It was one of the writing electives that I chose to take. And my teacher was always challenging me to write short stories by giving me different prompts. And no matter how hard of a challenge it was, I always overcame the obstacle and gave her exactly what she was looking for. It was more of like a creative writing class. So we kind of had we were free to kind of write whatever we wanted. And there were times where I wrote the same story over and over again, and she would tell me to rewrite it until I gave her what she wanted. But ultimately, my teacher told me that I was the best short story writer in the class. And so I decided on one snow day of that year, we were actually off from school, which was February 8th of 2016, after the title of my book, which is the 8th of February, to look through all the short stories that I wrote for that class. And I decided that if I could write a few more interesting ones, that I could make a book out of it. I love to write, and I still do, so I figured it was a fun assignment and a challenge for me at such a young age. It wasn't really about the money, it was more about the experience.
So for everyone who may not know, you went through the publishing process at 18 years old. What is that process like?
So honestly, I was in the middle of publishing my book when I came to Kean. So we were actually in the middle of preseason for soccer. Mm-hmm. And in the dorms, the Wi-Fi was down, so I was like hanging out in the Harwood lobby trying to figure out what I was doing. And the publishing process was stressful at first because I did a self-publishing technique through Amazon. So it was called Kindle Direct Publishing. And at the time, I was 18. So, like, I was young. I didn't really know what I was doing. So initially, it was overwhelming. But Amazon kind of makes the process easy because they give you, like, a step-by-step walkthrough on how to publish, how to make a book cover, how royalties are received, and everything else. So it ended up not being that bad after all.
Mm-hmm. You know, reading the book and going through it, there are certain characters in it, and we'll get into some of the characters a little bit later. But where did you draw inspiration from for each of these characters?
So the first couple short stories that I wrote, they were set prompts that my teacher gave me.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really get to choose kind of what I was writing about. But then when I wrote the other ones, I was trying to, like in the title of my book, you'll see it says like 13 thrilling short stories, because I like thrillers, I like suspense, I like horror. So I wanted to focus my short stories around like those categories, because that's what I like. I thought that was the most fun to write about. And also, like, I'm not a big movie person, but if I am going to watch a movie, it's going to be like something of that category. It's going to be like a horror movie, a thriller. Same with reading. I love reading thrillers and mysteries and stuff like that. So that's why I wanted to write short stories based on those things. And the characters, honestly, the names and stuff, I kind of just came up with on the fly. But yeah, that's really how it went down.
Mm-hmm. So speaking on one of those characters, one of my favorites came in the beginning, Chapter 1, Willie. And so it's about Willie McAllister. I don't want to give it too much because I do want people to read this, but it's about a guy named Willie McAllister. He's a single guy, really good looking, and he walks up to a group of women. He says, "Hi, I'm Willie McAllister, and if you're down for a good time tonight, meet me at the bar on 24th Street, 6 p.m. sharp. Drinks are on me." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, like, go ahead. Like, he's got game, go ahead. And they agree to it. And then something happens. And you get left in a state of suspense. And like you said, you can tell the writing style. You like thrillers and everything like that. You can tell. And the cliffhanger left me wanting a lot more. Can you speak on, just why would you choose to end your stories in such a way like that instead of giving it like a solid conclusion like a lot of other people would?
Well, I kind of like to leave the ending open for interpretation from the readers. So, like, I don't know if you've ever, like, whenever you're watching like your favorite TV show and they leave you on that cliffhanger and you're like, oh, I gotta wait till next week to find out what happens. With me, it was more like, like, especially that story, it started out all positive, like, you think this guy's like on vacation, he's meeting girls, and then something, like you said, something happens and you're not really expecting that. So after that happens, I kind of leave it up to the reader to decide, like, however they think that it's going to end. Or, like, you ever, like, read or watch something and you're like, I think this is going to happen next.
Yep.
I kind of wanted to leave it open for interpretation so they can kind of either think about what they thought was going to happen or kind of make it up themselves. And then you flip the page thinking that there's more, and then it leads into a totally different short story that has nothing to do with the first one. And then you're like, oh, like, I want to know what happens. And then you start reading the second one, and that was kind of my goal for the whole series there. I wanted to keep I wanted everyone to be like, at like the tip of their chairs, like left on their toes.
Something similar happened in the story. I'm trying to find it. In Chapter 9, Jamie, where, again, I'm reading, it's about a graduation day. And I'm sitting there reading it. I'm like, okay, like another really positive story. But at this point, I'm kind of like, okay, something's going to happen. But the twist in it, I did not expect whatsoever. Like, where did you draw inspiration from for this one? Was this another prompt, or was it just something like off the cuff?
No, that's one of the ones that I wrote myself. And after, some of the inspiration came from TV shows that I've watched where you're like, oh, like, like, if you ever watched like a movie or a TV show, something always happens at weddings.
Yep.
Like, whenever there's a wedding, something bad happens. So I was like, all right, like, I'm going to take a day that's supposed to be like a good, positive day for someone, like graduation, and I'm going to turn it into a tragedy. Because, I mean, I personally I'm more left on my toes after I read something suspenseful rather than reading something that's just like happy. Because then it's like, well, that was a good story. I don't really know what to think about it now. But then when you read a thriller like that and it goes from graduation to some tragic events, it's like, wow. Especially like I said, I get that inspiration from TV shows. I think those are the best shows where you're like, I can't believe that just happened, and then you're sitting all day thinking about it. So that's kind of where I got my inspiration to kind of put a twist on my stories like that.
That one in particular, I read it and I saw the next chapter started again, and I was like, whoa, wait. Like, what, did I miss something? And I was like, geez, like it was good because, like you said, that's what you wanted from the audience to read. But at the same time, me as the reader, I'm like, God, I want more.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the point. I kind of wanted the readers to be left wanting more. So, you know, I've thought about writing a second book, but never really got around to do it. But, you know, maybe one day.
Something else I did notice in terms of just literary devices, there were certain stories that were written in third person, whereas others were written in first person. Which do you prefer writing in, and, you know, what do you think helped your writing more, writing in first or writing in third?
I personally like writing in third person better because I feel like it's more interesting because you kind of get to put, whoever's reading it kind of gets to put themselves in the shoes of that character. I feel like if it's like my or I, it's kind of like, okay, like she's talking about herself. Like, but when it's a character and I write about them in third person, then it's kind of like, you know, the reader can put themselves in their shoes, and, you know, I feel like it's more engaging for the reader that way. So I would say that third person is more, not that it's easier, but I think it's more, you know, like it's more fun to write that way. I would say I enjoy that more than first person.
So my final question would be, you know, what advice would you give to other people that desire to write and ultimately go out and publish their own book?
Okay, so the only advice I would really give to others that have a desire to write and publish a book is to kind of just have fun with it and enjoy the process. The beauty of writing is that there's really no right way to write a poem or a short story or even a novel. Like, it's really all up to the author to kind of do whatever they want, which is the beauty of being an author. So another thing I would also say is don't let the influence or opinions of others kind of stop you from wanting to publish, because, you know, sometimes people will say that they want to do something, and, you know, people's opinions sometimes can influence whether they want to continue with it or not. So I would say that, and also the fact that the process, it wasn't easy. It was stressful for me, but it was worth it in the end because writing's something that I'm passionate about. So for anyone else that's passionate about writing, if that's something that they desire to do, I think they should just go for it.
Great advice. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
And now it's time to preview the week ahead. Coming up tonight, we have NJCU playing the Kean Cougars. Both basketballs will be another NJAC matchup. Another, I'm sure, very close, tight game on both ends. But again, I'm looking forward to this game. It should be a very fun game.
Yeah, I mean, NJCU had some All-Americans on their squad for the women's squad before this season started. And unfortunately, they've had to forfeit a few games, including some crucial NJAC matchups. Technically, they haven't lost a game that they've played in, but they have had to forfeit 2 NJAC matchups, making them out of the playoff race. But they're definitely not to be underestimated. And as for the men's team, they're 4-5, 1-2 in the NJAC, so very much middling. So Kean can really rebound against this NJCU squad tonight.
It's definitely possible, and I see Kean going all out as they always do, in terms of just, you know, offensively and bringing everything that they do on the defensive end. And looking ahead for Saturday, we have a clash of the Titans, Ramapo versus Kean. Jish and I will be on the call for that one, along with our partner, Kevin. It will be our last game, unfortunately, of the semester. But when I say clash of the Titans, I mean it. Jada Thompson for Ramapo, the freshman, won Rookie of the Week. She averaged 19.5 points last week, along with 8.5 rebounds and 4 assists, along with 2 steals, going 1-1, just like the Cougars did last week. And of course, we already mentioned Shannon McCoy, who averaged 21.5 points with 15 rebounds in last week. Both players will look to obviously score, but help their teams come away with a victory on Saturday.
Yeah, and Kean will also be playing. Ramapo will also be on the call for that one with Kevin. Ramapo, they're 0-3 in the NJAC, 1-5 overall, but of course you can't underestimate any single team. But Kean really should be looking to rebound and recover after a 2-game skid in these next two, perhaps put themselves back in the playoff picture.
Oh, no doubt. It's still early. It's only December, and both teams will come out right after the break and continue their seasons strong.
Absolutely. Well, that'll conclude episode 2 of Cougar Culture. Thank you guys again for tuning in and listening to us. We really do appreciate you guys. Everyone stay safe. Have a great night, or whenever you listen to this, have a great morning. I'm Jish Sokolsky alongside Dorian Alert. Take care, everyone.